Both tenants and landlords face a lot of uncertainty these days because of the economic fallout from the coronavirus outbreak. CBSN Bay Area's Kenny Choi asked a real estate attorney about their rights.
Joining me now is Simon Offord, real estate attorney with Brewer, Offord and Peterson in Palo Alto. Simon, good morning. What are you seeing in the real estate market right now?
Hi, good morning, Kenny. Yeah, it's certainly an uncertain time. Lots of questions, lots of confusion, and some fear about how this pandemic is going to impact real estate and how it has an effect on commercial and residential tenants, as well as people that are looking to buy property right now.
Yeah, uncertain times for sure. Now, if someone does lose their job and cannot pay the rent, does the landlord have the right to evict them?
Yeah, so Governor Newsom a couple weeks ago initially issued an order that put that on the local jurisdictions to determine how they're going to handle evictions and protections for tenants. More recently, last week, he beefed that up a little bit by essentially putting a ban on residential evictions through till the end of May. If the tenants can show that they have some sort of impact from the coronavirus. So they've lost their job, they're unable to work because they're sick or anything like that. So on a statewide level, there is that protection. Local governments can go beyond that, though, which many have done. And those include Santa Clara County, for instance, which is probably the most aggressive tenant protection that we have. Because in Santa Clara County, it applies to commercial tenants and residential tenants. And it allows them not to pay the rent until, as of right now, May 31st. And then they'd have 120 days to make up that rent payment once the shelter in place is lifted. It doesn't mean they don't have to pay rent at all. It just means they basically have a deferment for now in terms of paying the rent while we're in the shelter in place.
All right, so we talked about the tenants. What about the other side? What happens to the landlords? Do they have any protections also if they don't get those rent payments?
Yeah, so the landlords, their protections tend to come in a little slower than for the tenants. So right now, there isn't anything certain for landlords. FHA and VA type lenders have explicitly stated they won't be processing foreclosures or anything like that currently. Most of the banks, I think there's something like over 200 state chartered banks, and a lot of the big banks, the Wells Fargo types, have stated that they would defer mortgage payments for anywhere between 30 and 90 days, depending on the bank. Again, this isn't a waiver of the requirement to pay, it's just a delay, and then those payments will be due typically on the mortgage side at the end of the loan. So there is some interim protection for landlords. We'll see how that plays out and if the government takes any more aggressive action to protect landlords moving forward, though.
Before this outbreak, the Bay Area market was hot. But if someone did sign a contract to buy a property recently and are trying to cancel that transaction, can they do that? What kind of protections do they have?
Yeah, so we're seeing a lot of that, especially about a week ago when this first hit. People are concerned. They used to have hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in the bank, and now they have a lot less, or they've lost their job and they're wanting to back out. The typical purchase contracts we have in California, for instance, the California Association of Realtors form purchase contract, doesn't have any clause about what happens in a situation like this. The legal phrase is act of God or force majeure. So it's a battle. The case law is not clear if this would fall under an act of God because of whether it's actually impossible to perform. So it's a little bit of a legal gray area. And we've been on both sides of those disputes between buyers and sellers. So right now, I can't tell a buyer or the seller, you're going to win if the buyer backs out or not. So what we're seeing is a lot of negotiation between buyers and sellers trying to either stall things out temporarily to see how this plays out, or maybe some sort of purchase price reduction, and trying to make a deal that works for both sides. And the California Association of Realtors has prepared an addendum that people can use in their contracts to kind of deal with the coronavirus impact as well. And so a lot of realtors are using that.
So that leads us to the last question. Looking ahead, what is the outlook for the real estate market in the Bay Area? What are your clients telling you? What are you seeing?
Yeah, well, the hope for everyone is that the market recovers, that this is a short-term impact. There certainly is a decrease in values sitting here today because of the uncertainty. So some people see that as an opportunity. Other people see it as a time to kind of put things on pause and not do anything. But long term, once this is over, the Bay Area market, because of the tech industry, it's expected to and hopefully will recover, and the house prices will recover. But only time will tell. So it is a time of uncertainty, and maybe it's a time to gamble, or maybe it's a time to hold off and see how this plays out.
All right, Simon Offord with Brewer Offord and Peterson. Thanks for joining us. Thank you for your insight today.
Kenny, I appreciate it. Have a good one and stay safe.
You too.
For more on renter rights amid the coronavirus pandemic, you can head to kpix.com.